Hello and welcome to Arise News. You're watching the Global Business Report. I'm Rotu Sodiri, coming to you from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. We begin here in Nigeria, where President Buhari, in his national address this morning, approved the continued use of the old 200 Naira notes to ease the cash shortage in the country. He said the old 200 Naira notes will coexist with the new 200 Naira notes until April 10th. He did not, however, allow the use of the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes and said the CBN will continue to accept those the new notes.
Ease the supply pressures, particularly to our citizens. I have given approval to the CBN that the old 200 Naira banknotes be released back into circulation, and that it should also be allowed to circulate as legal tender with the new 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira banknotes for 60 days from February 10th, 2023 to April 10th, 2023, when the old 200 Naira notes ceases to be legal tender. In line with Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act 2007, all existing old 1,000 Naira and 500 Naira notes remain redeemable at CBN and designated points. Considering the health of our economy and the legacy we must bequeath to the next administration and future generations of Nigerians, I admonish every citizen to strive harder to make their deposits by taking advantage of the platforms and windows being provided by the CBN.
All right, we're not just talking the Naira notes, we're also talking about inflation figures which have come out from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa. So to get into this in-depth analysis, we have, of course, Arise Business Analyst Chika Mbonu, who is joining us to discuss. We've also got Olamide Adeboboye, who's a Senior Portfolio Manager at AXA Mansard Investment Managers, and Abdulazeez Kuranga, who is a Senior Sub-Saharan African Strategist with Cordros Securities. Thank you three for joining us, and good morning to you all. Chika, I want to start with you. Your reaction to the President's address this morning.
Oh, this is a crack record. I was talking about this
non-stop.
non-stop. You know, I mean, but let me start from the comical side. I think those who have been after the head of Gordon Emefiele should actually let the man free, because if you listen to the president's speech in this morning, he's like, I directed, I instructed, I authorized. So let those who are going after the man's head
go after the president.
Go after the president, especially those who belong to the same party with the president, you know, so they can free this man. You know, but I mean, be that as it may, let me just look at this from one or two perspectives before I coalesce on the 200 Naira old note that have been allowed back into circulation. The first one is that the NFIU, the National Financial Intelligence Unit, said between 2015 and 2022, 701 billion Naira was withdrawn in cash by the state government, you know, at the state government levels. We're talking about local governments and other levels. Now, all the vendors, contractors of state governments have, you know, have accounts. All the employees of local governments have accounts. Pensioners have accounts. All the people that the governments pay have accounts. So what are these governors doing with you know, with cash? So if you listen to the president also, you understand that one of the big objectives of this initiative has been to, you know, decash the economy and then the associated evils that tie themselves down to use of cash. Now the other thing also is that we are still looking for about 500 billion. You know, Naira. I can tell you that it's not my grandmother that is in Olo, Imo State. You know that place they bomb everywhere, every day now. You know, that's where my grandmother is. It's not her that is holding this 500 billion. We should put the searchlight to know where this 500 billion is. And as the president said, those who have the 3 months, 1 or 3 months, is enough time for anybody to, you know, had money to bring it into the banking system. We wonder why those who have this 500 billion plus have refused to bring back into the system, especially as we are aware that central bank went to the communities to go and exchange the old notes, you know, with the new notes. You know, wonder why that is, you know, still outstanding. So the other thing also is that when the bourgeoisie in Nigeria want to protect their interests, they had it under we're doing it for the masses, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I saw some people at the Supreme Court yesterday, talking about we're doing it for Nigerians, we're doing it for Nigerians. I hasten to say that we know what happens after every FAC allocation. We know the things that happen at the Bureau de Change after every FAC allocation for some of these state governments. So let the peace reign. The president has spoken about it. The 200 naira coming into circulation, well, of course, has been received generally, by a lot of people. I spoke to CBN substantially in the past, and I said, see, the bottom of the pyramid, I can't remember when last I handled cash. The bottom of the pyramid are those who handle a lot of cash. You can see that from what's happening outside there. Yeah. The transaction volumes do not pass 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 naira. So, flood the whole place with the 50 naira notes, with the 100 naira notes, and the 200 naira notes. We've spoken about this, we shared about it, and it didn't happen. But I'm happy that the president, in his own wisdom, has said recirculate the old 200 naira notes along with the existing new notes. And let liquidity returning back into the system. I have a feeling that the banks now flood the ATMs with the 200 naira notes, given the 60-day additional window, sanity will return to the system as CBN gradually, bring the imprints of the new notes also into the system. I encourage a lot of state governors, go back there and educate your citizens as the importance of this program. Yeah. And so support it, not opposing the initiatives of the government. The pluses actually outweigh the minuses. The minuses have been into problems on project management, which I believe that a lot of things CBN could have handled better. Now, before I cede the floor to my colleagues here, let me just say one thing, which I said yesterday. Yep. I thought about the small social experiment I performed with the tomato seller. And I said, I went there, I said, Madam, you have an account. Why don't you accept me to buy all your tomatoes and transfer money to you? And she said, yes, she does that, but a lot of times she doesn't get credit for the credit on time for those transfers. And I did an experiment. I said, how much is all the total pepper and onions and this thing you have here? I said 10,000. I said, I'll buy all. I brought out my 10 bank apps and started transferring to her 1,000 naira. And for some of them, she got a lot. For some of them, she didn't get any alert. And so you can imagine her, she cannot release the pepper and onions to me if she doesn't get an alert. Yeah. And I thought about the banking system, along with CBN, coming together to make sure that the technology works. We'll find solutions to the fact that, transaction costs, parting of your goods and getting payment for it happens simultaneously. And that will be for the credit of the whole system. We don't have much time, so let me just stop there with my colleagues.
Thank you, Chika. Thank you. That's why I have to have you on to break this thing down. Olamide, look, a lot of things are making news now. There's no scenarios, but there's also inflation. 21.8% year on year for Nigeria. Ghana, 53 or so. South Africa, 6.9. What are you telling, as a portfolio manager, what are you telling your clients with respect to portfolio allocation and how to, to hedge against inflation? What are you telling them?
Well, I mean, it's one thing is very certain. Inflation is at 21.8, so you're definitely dealing with negative real return, as a Nigerian, right? But the truth is, from what is happening, by default, you would ordinarily expect that fixed income yields, should go up, right, in line with what you're seeing with inflation numbers. But in Nigeria's case, that hasn't been the situation. For Ghana, it's different. The yields have, significantly gone higher. But for Nigeria here, you find out that our short-term yields, your one-year treasury bill is actually trading lower than 3%, and your 1 year and your longer term, which is the bonds, they are growing at very little rate, and that's basically due to the liquidity picture that you have. You have some bond maturity coming up in like April, so we have larger liquidity, for the first quarter of this year into April. And then what we've told our clients is you would expect that once most of this liquidity, basically go out. So we're looking at probably from April, May. You probably still see that liquidity in the system after the bond matures, but afterwards, because of course the expectation is you probably see this inflation go on. February, you've had a lot of higher prices. Like it's same experiment he mentioned. I did something similar, and I was really surprised. For an Hausa person, I was able to actually transfer money for that, although at an additional cost, right? Because that was before the policy around anybody that is charging ridiculous POS fees. CBN said they were going to get involved and get them married. arrested and all of that. So yeah, but the truth is, you probably expect this inflationary pressure to continue for at least for February. I'm certain that inflation will probably go higher. But you might start to see month on month come down at some point. But this will remain, and once it remains, it means that. And the liquidity I've mentioned, goes out. So from like the second half, you might start to see a change in direction in terms of yield. So what we told our clients to do is, as much as possible, you want to stay short. You want to look out for opportunities within the fixed income market. Staying short, staying in cash. You can buy a lot of commercial papers have come out, at the beginning of this year. A number of them. Currently I even think a number of them. I think Flour Mills, Coleman. A number of them are actually out already. Yeah. So people can actually, participate in that. Interestingly, is you have all of them, less than a year, 180 days and the like. So people can do that. People can also do fixed deposits. Money market instrument is also one of the things that we tell our clients to, basically put your money into, because it just makes you your position for that opportunity that I've mentioned, that you probably see yields, start to go higher. That's for the Naira sovereigns, start to go higher later in the year. So you want to be positioned for that. You can do all of those, short-term instruments. For equities, what we try to tell our clients is you need to trade carefully. There's expectation of a recession, globally. Even if Nigeria isn't expected to go into recession, growth is going to slow down, and that should definitely, impact a lot of the sectors, right? So what we tell clients to do, what we tell people to do is, if you want to go into equities, because a number of clients have higher risk, so we tell them to, go gradually into the market. If you have a 20 million, you want to prorate your entry into the market, you can do 5 million first quarter, ahead of dividend payment, you get your dividends, there's a markdown, then you go back into the market again, such that you'll be able to get additional units at the lower end, where prices have gone down, you get more, and then obviously, by default, once there's a recession or there is a slowdown in most economies, you're expecting a recovery at some point. So you're well positioned to enjoy, that benefit. And you also have some clients that actually hold, dollars in cash. There's the mutual fund, there's a dollar mutual fund that you can also put your funds into. And also, those are the kind of things we speak to our clients about, having that long-term play, particularly for equities market, is very important. You have companies that have very good fundamentals, have very good, cash flow and balance sheet, but might not be doing well right now, right? But even if, for Nigeria instance, we are good in terms of markets. We've been up by about 6% already. Still, it's very important that you follow the fundamentals and, go in gradually into the markets before you take any position.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Olamide. Aziz, let me bring you in. What do you think as far as February is concerned? Because that's when we talk about the inflation figures. I also want to get your thoughts on the figures we've seen now. If it is expected that because there's less cash to buy items, that perhaps that would moderate, so see inflation decelerate. However, we've seen mobile transactions, as Chika and Olamide have talked about with their experiments, those have also gone up. How do you see that dynamic playing out for inflation going, for at least for Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. So firstly, looking at cash, so we tend to look at data and also maybe try to paint a scenario. So on data as of December, which is the latest data from the CBN, cash outside the banking system as a percentage of money supply is around 5% compared to 6.7% in December 2021. So that shows that this is still really small compared to the total money supply. So if that is the case, even with less cash, so we don't expect to see any meaningful moderation in inflationary pressures. And even aside from that, there have been some thoughts around probably you painting a scenario of which, okay, I come to you, you are a seller, I'm a buyer, and I come to you that I want to buy something for you, I don't have cash. Can I transfer? And then you tell me that you don't accept transfer, that I should pay cash. And some will now be telling you that probably you, as a seller, you'll be telling me you want to tell me that, okay, you should reduce the price for me. But even if you reduce the price for me, where will I see that money to pay you? So net on net, you can see that it is not really, that based on that perspective and also based on this data, I can see that there's no meaningful impact on inflation. So this is more of a GDP play than inflation. So in terms of trade, constraining trading activities, so it's more or less impacting GDP rather than inflationary pressure. So for February now, we should just be looking at electionary concerns, persisting PMS shortages, increase in PMS prices. So those are the factors that we should actually be looking at rather than what is currently happening, rather than this cash crunch, which we don't expect to have meaningful impact. I
want to show a tweet to the three of you from one of our regular guests, Kelvin Emmanuel. This is when Ghana put out their inflation figures. He says, at least Ghana is honest with its inflation numbers. Chika, let me start with you. We are 21.8. Ghana next door, a 45-minute flight. They have inflation of 53%. What do you make of the whole debate around Nigeria's inflation numbers? What do you think?
But the first thing is that there's a difference between Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah.
And we don't have to suffer the same sickness at the same time. But be that as it may, this issue has been on the table for a long time. You are talking about inflation. Some people have also done some social experiment and gone and say, what kind of food can we eat with 500 naira? And even the structured eateries have come out advertising, some food elements where you can eat with 500 naira. And says maybe a rice and egg. And so the issue is this, that Nigeria is different from Ghana. Now, I'm not going to be selective. The point I'm making is this. The same MBS pushes out figures. You select, you agree with them. They push out some other figures, you don't agree with them. I don't work that. You don't work that way.
You have to be uniform.
You have to be uniform. They are accepted regulatory agency for pushing out our figures. Of course, you can say that there's a basket, remember, of commodity items where they used to measure inflation. All of them have not proportionally moved at the same time, at the same level. Okay, diesel had moved from maybe 200 naira, 300 naira to maybe 800 naira. At the same time, I said some food items are also, which are remember, food inflation is a very massive element of that. Food prices have moved, but not as like a diesel has moved, and so on and so forth. So I accept the inflation figures. And Nigeria is different from Ghana. That's all I can say about that. Let me leave it for my colleagues. Maybe they have
Olamide, jump in.
Prophetic answer.
Well, the way I see it is, regardless of what the number says, right? Prices are high, and that is what inflation is supposed to tell you. So it really doesn't matter if your inflation is 150 or is 15 or is 25, that only gives guidance to the policymakers that need to adjust the monetary policy rate, in line with what is going on there. So I think what is really clear, what the information should tell you is really that prices are high, regardless of the number. So let's forget who is reporting the right number or who is not reporting the right number. Right? That's not really the
Aziz, what's your take?
Exactly. I also follow our perspective. Look at Nigeria, 21.8. If you are looking at it just on the face level, you want to be comparing with Ghana, but then you look at it, that 21.8%. When was the last time we had this kind of inflationary pressures? That was in September 2005. Same with Ghana, 50-something%, excluding all the 60% in December. The last time they're having something close to this was around 2001 levels. South Africa, why are you not comparing with South Africa of 6.9%? But then if you also look at South Africa's number, 6.9%, 7.2%, food inflation 13.6%, lower than Nigeria, but then it is the highest level since 2009 in South Africa. So those are perspectives that I tend to look these things, and you'll be able to get clearer pictures.
The other thing I want to add here is that I think it's an interplay of the underground market in Nigeria, the informal market in Nigeria.
Yes.
Because what is actually analyzed is more of the formal market. I'll give you an example that I remember one time that I was traveling during the safer days in those times. I was doing some journey among some states, and I was doing a study. And I was calling the Minister for Petroleum then. I said, you have regulated fuel price at 162 naira in Lagos. But I'm crossing Cross River now, I'm buying the fuel at 300 naira. I'm crossing Imo State now, I'm buying it at 350. So a lot of the prices have actually hung there for a long time. Yes. You don't see the 162 naira fuel price. So but over here, when it happens here, moves up to 300, that's when it's reported. A lot of the hinterland, they've been buying things at those expensive, prices, and so every other price there has been marked up to market. So inflation, the base for inflation is already there and large, and so the incremental for us is just minimal compared to the Ghana inflation.
Real quick, I have to get, because we'll have to press for time. I have to jump ahead to the elections because that's what is coming up next. I just want to get an outlook from you three. Olamide, let me start with you. As far as, what's this at stake, whether the election will impact the markets or what your economic outlook is, what's coming
for
up?
us, our outlook is there's a lot of uncertainty. And what we're telling clients is you really want to stay as liquid as possible, right? Regardless of what the outcome is going to look like. Now, staying liquid is not saying that you should have just cash sitting in bank. We're saying the money markets and all those short-term papers, make sure you have them handy because you can easily get them out of place out of any time you need it, right? As far as this economy is concerned, this period, we're even speaking to clients to risk is very important. Is risk consideration in making your investments. You cannot just hear a company is offering 20% when treasury bills or where government papers, the highest is less than 15, and you want to pick it. You have to be very, very careful, even with companies, right? So we're very selective this period. Make sure that whatever you're doing with any company, there are companies that are very solid, that that they have very good backing and your money is safe.
Aziz, real quick, your outlook.
Yes, so for election, certainly the uncertainties will continue to impact macro variables, but outcome of the election will be what will actually then determine what will happen going forward, particularly relating to fiscal outlook and also exchange rates concerns and also inflationary pressure. So outcome of the election would actually determine what will be. And also looking at the manifestos of these three leading candidates, so they tend to move more in line with the market. So hopefully we'll be able to see actions aligning with thoughts. Then outlook will certainly be positive. So however, in situations where we are now seeing them now retracing their steps from
like their subsidy removal promise.
Yes.
Chika, you get the last word.
I mean, interesting times. The general consensus is that whoever wins out of the four candidates will be an add-on, a better.
Four leading candidates. So
four leading candidates.
Thank you.
Four leading candidates. Better than scenario, an add-on, and a step up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a better word. A step up on what we have now.
Yeah.
Even this is going to be maybe new wine in old bottle. Maybe new wine in old bottle.
Yeah.
And one or two of them will take off to abroad to go and get some injections to become stronger and recover from the campaigns. Some of them, one or two of them also will settle down and arrange a cabinet and start, 7 trillion in debt, revenues declining, 60-70% real unemployment level, inflation. I mean, it's tough luck, Where would the money come from? So it requires, like one or two candidates who say it's not a wrestling match. It's actually more of a wrestling match than a hug. I think it's going to be serious. But the sentiments are going to be better. We hope that the international community, especially the foreign direct investments or foreign portfolio investments, let me worry about that one, not even direct investment. We look at it with good face, And what I know for sure is that even if any of them is going to be lethargic, they can't be lethargic again because the system, the pressure, we are awake now. Our eyes are wider. We won't allow anybody to just go and sleep. We're going to put pressure on anybody who wins, any of the candidates who wins, to just get on running because the problems are actually severe for us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the panel. Chika Mbonu, Arise Business Analyst, Olamide Adeboboye, Senior Portfolio Manager, AXA Mansard Investment Manager, and of course, Abdulazeez Kuranga, SSA, that's Sub-Saharan African Macroeconomic Strategist, Cordros Securities Limited. Thank you three for joining us.